Let's get angsty.
Yeah. Let's talk a girl's ear off at a party. It's A24 time.
Have you seen? What's your A24 pickup line, Jack?
That's insane.
Michael, do you have an A24 pickup line?
I used to see the TV glow. Now I see you glow.
Ooh,
That's solid.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It works and it doesn't. Like,
Yeah, because they were like,
Because have you seen the film?
all right, so A24 episode. So we're going to do this in two parts, but we are going to go through essentially from the founding of A24 up until now. This is kind of a guide to all of the A24 movies we have seen.
A very uncomprehensive
Oh, absolutely.
guide. to
Yeah.
A24 movies.
Maybe half of them, maybe. We don't know.
If that.
Yeah.
We're rocking a good 10 to 20%
Yeah.
right now. But
Yeah.
that's okay, because some of them are better than others.
Yeah. The ones we've seen only.
Definitively.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
oh, go ahead. Oh, well, I was going to say, like, real quick, just to kind of give a background on A24. This is the little bit of report we're going to get for the season. But so it was founded in 2012, and the idea was that it's kind of a distribution company that's focused on cheaper viral marketing instead of like traditional movie marketing, like kind of create viral moments and then like word of mouth and get people to watch their movies. Yeah, so it started in 2012. The first movies, what do we want to start with, Aaron?
We can just hit both of them. It's
Okay.
really interesting because I, for whatever reason, just felt like A24 was around for a lot longer. And so to think about like the Bling Ring being one of the first A24 movies
Right.
was very interesting because I distinctly remember when that movie came out. So the Bling Ring was, it was interesting. I'll admit, I was there for Emma Watson. Like, that's really the main reason.
Especially
why.
when it came out. That is entirely
100%,
fine.
100%.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wait, this is Emma Watson playing
I'm in.
a different role?
An American?
Playing a delinquent American teenager? I was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that, you know what's funny? For whatever reason, I can't accept when someone keeps playing a teenager. Like she's in, what's that movie? I Feel Infinite. What's that movie?
Oh, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Perks of Being a Wallflower. She's in that movie and she had already played a teenager for a while. And then she's a teenager in that movie. And for whatever reason, I was like, nah.
Not believable.
Yeah. Even though she's probably like 21 or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm like, yeah, you as a witch instead at 17 years old, believable performance. But this,
Can't accept it.
no chance.
Yeah.
Great film, though. But not A24.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. There wasn't really, like, when I look back at the Bling Ring now, not really too much about it. I guess it being sort of the beginning of what would make A24 movies A24 movies.
Yeah.
Like, does it encapsulate their identity that much? I would say probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe in the sense that it's a little bit off speed in the type of movie that you're watching. You could tell that it's kind of like a little bit more artsy, typically low budget. It's based off of a true story, so there's that aspect to it.
There was a real Bling Ring?
There was a real ring. There was a real group of delinquent teenagers that like went and robbed famous people's houses.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think the premise of it is interesting. The performances were pretty cool. I mean, we were kind of just there for Emma Watson, but
Why do you say we?
I mean,
You.
the collective zeitgeist of America,
True.
they were only there for Emma Watson.
Yeah.
Let's be real. No, it has a little cult following for it, though. But I remember, I think Sleigh Bells did the song that's for the trailer, and it got like really, really popular at that point. I think it's called Crown on the Ground. It's a good song. It's mixed very interestingly because it sounds like it's on broken, blown out speakers, but apparently that was intentional. So it kind of created a moment. It gets clipped a lot, and I think when people are like looking at like their cinematography or mood boards, I feel like Bling Ring's on there gets clipped quite a lot because it's like, ooh, angsty teenagers,
Yeah.
like that sort of vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Like before Euphoria Euphoria and stuff like that.
Right. Mom,
So-
stay out of my room kind of vibe.
Yeah, right. You
Yeah.
know, like I think Emma Watson has this like line. She's like, "I want to rob," and then like, as in just like rob people's houses, and like for
Yeah.
whatever reason, like that's a vibe for a certain demographic of people. They're
Yeah.
just like, yeah. And I'm like,
Down.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, eat the rich, I suppose. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. It was okay for me
Mm.
looking back on it.
Mm. I have, that's one where I'm like, I feel like I'll eventually get to it, but
It's not as pressing. If it's on the list of like,
Okay.
hey, I want an A24 experience, would I recommend that one right away?
yeah.
Maybe middle to
Yeah.
down.
So, we should also mention that criteria because we were going to say, we're going to say something, Michael? Okay. We were going to say like how A24 is it?
Yeah, how
Was that
A24 is
the
it?
criteria?
Yeah, like
How essential is it to the A24 kind of?
I'd probably you could probably skip it or at least just save it to the end. There's other ones in front of it
That
you
are
should see
more,
before that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the next one, The Spectacular Now.
Have you seen this movie?
I have like nearly watched it like 3 times. Like queued up and everything.
So we were only there for Shailene Woodley, but no, I'm
Similar.
Just kidding. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
similar.
No, this one actually is a really good movie.
I've heard it's quite good.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's kind of a classic like coming of age sort of film.
Yeah.
You've still kind of got some of the traditional like teenage or coming of age film of like, especially like in a romantic. I wouldn't say it's a romantic comedy, but just a romantic dramedy, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's some like there's some really entertaining bits in there just because of the nature of the characters.
Yeah.
But Miles Teller is also in it. He does really well. This is kind of early Miles Teller that's in it. And so yeah, I think it's kind of explores that incredibly volatile time in your life, and they kind of do a artistic way of romanticizing the uncertainty of that period. But then it's like it's not just we can kind of do whatever we want and you know we feel infinite sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like oh wait, there are like lasting consequences to your actions. Like after you leave high school, like life continues to happen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so they kind of explore that dynamic a little bit with
Huh.
inside the film. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like for people that are like, oh, I can just like do whatever I want, like not try, like that romanticism of like inside of those like coming of age stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like high school is everything.
Yeah.
And then it's like quickly not. And then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, how do characters react with that? But then
Yeah.
like you're tracking through this relationship between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a intimate film. I think it's really well paced. The performances are really good, especially for like this is like kind of beginning Miles Teller. I may have been one of the first things I really have seen him in.
I feel like that's one of the first like, oh, Miles Teller is an actor
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And then and like more of a developed like Shailene Woodley is an actress type of role
Yeah.
outside of Secret Life of an American Teenager. So
Although, have you seen The Descendants? Quite good.
no, this one with George Clooney, right?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that one.
She's in that. She plays his daughter, and she's like quite good in that movie.
She's just a good actress.
yeah, just a good actress.
Yeah. Fun fact: I've never met her, but I have been to her house.
You have the weirdest celebrity stories I've ever heard.
So I went to high school with her brother,
Okay.
and we were not close by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I've like maybe talked to him cumulatively 5 times.
Yeah.
He was older than I was, so he graduated before me.
Yeah.
But we had mutual friends,
Yeah.
and there was at one point where like one of our mutual friends was house sitting for him,
Mhm.
and she was like, "Hey, I need to stop over at Tanner's house because I'm housing for him, and I think he need to like feed their pet or something."
Yeah.
And she was like, "You can just come in." So I was like, "Okay." So we went into her home,
Yeah.
and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
I've just been there.
You said,
And
"Wow."
not even for like a party. Like
no,
literally
just
Yeah.
like
It's
Stop
empty
by.
for a
It's
total
empty.
of maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, "Oh, this is pictures of you and your family."
Yeah.
And how about that?
But it's Shailene Woodley.
Yeah,
In your family photos.
But it's Shailene Woodley.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know her, but I don't.
Yeah. Not really. But you've breathed some air that she's breathed.
I would like. It's one of those things I've always thought about. Like, if I ever meet Shailene Woodley, is that something that I bring? It's
No.
like, oh my gosh, I loved you in this film. Also, weird story. I've been to your house.
I've been to your house
You're
while
like,
you
"Oh?"
weren't there.
And it's all like, oh, I went to school with your brother. Oh, so you know Tanner. I mean, not. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I know he
him.
exists.
Yeah, I know of him.
No.
I've said hi to him multiple times.
Yeah.
But no. Anyway.
Spectacular now. How
Spectacular
A24.
now. I would say that's pretty A24. I'd give it a go.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Ex Machina, which I haven't seen, but you've seen.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorites.
Dude.
I think it's so unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Oh, so it's unpleasant?
it's it's enjoyable, but
But
unpleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think it's cool. I would really love to rewatch it now,
Mm-hmm.
given the space that we're currently in with the advancements of AI and things like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because this came out in 2015, so this was really before we are where we are now with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But still, I think there's always been like some sort of dystopian interest of like technology going too far and becoming sentient and things like that.
Yeah.
But the way that this one is done, I think is really good, and it's shot really beautifully. Because it's all in like it's shot in like all one location.
Yeah.
And so they're going through and they're telling the story, and they kind of make the story feel large, even though it's all happening in one place. And some of the cinematography tricks that they do in order to kind of create this like tension, like there's this line of tension throughout the whole entire film where you're like not like completely uncomfortable, but you're just kind of like on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
So like you can kind of usually tell like there's certain beats of like, okay, here's some exposition that's happening. We're going to transition into like some tension, and then that's going to reach a climax and then resolve. It's kind of just like tense the whole time, but like in an enjoyable way. Just unsettling.
Unpleasant.
Unpleasant.
Yeah.
No, but I think purely for like a suspenseful thriller, it is like a good example of the A24 version of a suspenseful thriller, which now looking back on it, you can see they start to build on that theme throughout other films and things that they've made.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really good one to start with. It's got oh man, I'm really bad with this dude's name.
Oscar Isaac? I know he's one of them.
It's the guy we were just talking about, Bill Weasley, and
Bill Weasley.
yeah.
Oh,
and it's about
Gleason.
about time.
Brendan?
No, there's son Gleason.
Domhnall.
Domhnall Gleason.
Domino
Isn't
Gleeson.
that the kid? Yeah.
Yeah.
Never would have guessed that, which is tragic because
Star Wars.
I
Star Wars,
really
yeah.
like him as an also
one of
in
the
Star
most
Wars.
popular franchises ever.
But like,
Yeah.
okay,
This was before that.
Yeah.
but yeah, he's in it. Oscar Isaac's in it, and then the one,
Alicia.
yeah, what's her last name? Starts with a V.
Alicia Vikander.
There we go.
She's Swedish.
There we go. I was like, she has that Viking last name, but that's all I remember. But yeah, yes, a fellow Swede, Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, great performances, and like it's one of those like one of the tenets of a lot of A24 movies is it being like I wouldn't say necessarily minimal, but typically pretty low budget in comparison
Absolutely.
to a lot of other blockbusters.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those where like when you think about it, you can see how it's a low budget film, but it does not feel like it, and it doesn't look like it at all.
It doesn't feel limited. Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. But
Yeah.
like on paper, you're like, oh wait, there's maybe only like 8 characters, if that, but less than that.
Yeah.
And it's all shot in like one place.
Yeah.
So
cool.
it's like, oh, like what an interesting way to tell a story that's engaging and gripping.
Yeah.
And make it beautiful and film it in this really unique way without necessarily having to have a huge budget or something like that.
That is the exact like right up my alley. Like is like the movies that are like really low budget and they're shot in like one like location or whatever, but they're still able to like ratchet up the tension and still like 10 Cloverfield Lane, Panic Room. I've been like begging you guys to watch forever.
Still need to watch Panic. You really have been asking us to watch Panic.
Yeah, I have.
Wait, that's the one. Wait, is that the one with Brie Larson?
No, that's
no, that's-
Room, which
that's
we'll get
Room.
to. But
Okay.
yeah, that's also set in one
Ethan
room.
Hawke, right? No.
No.
Who's in Panic Room?
It's Jodie Foster and Jared Leto, or like
Jared
and Forrest
Leto.
Whitaker.
What a comp! Wait, what? What is this cast?
It's like a really random like
yeah.
oh,
like what the heck?
and Twilight Girl before she was like an adult.
Kristen
She
Stewart.
was like a kid. Yeah, she's like 12 years old.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Like catch
Kristen
that
Stewart.
kid, Kristen Stewart, or like how young are we talking?
like 12 years old, like I just said.
Oh, okay. So like actual catch that kid. Kristen Stewart.
Is that a show she was in or something?
Have you seen Catch That Kid?
No.
Brother. Classic. It's like a Disney movie, isn't it?
Is it actually?
I literally don't know what we're talking
You haven't
about.
seen it?
Me neither.
Really?
I've never heard.
Is this a bigger deal than Panic Room?
I mean, I kind of feel like you need to watch Catch That Kid before you watch Panic Room.
We'll do a trade, okay?
So
You need to buy into her as a kid character.
Yeah,
And
that
then-
you need to catch. Yeah.
yeah, timeless Kristen Stewart.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, I think that Ex Machina is fantastic. So I definitely think how A24 is it. Very A24.
Very A24.
And I would recommend that you watch it.
I really have to watch. I've been wanting to watch it for a while. Yeah.
Hands down, baby.
All right. Room is actually the next one, which you haven't seen.
I have not. This is the one with Brie Larson.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen this.
It's so essentially like the premise is that she was like kidnapped and like
Right.
raped, and she has this child, and so this child has literally never seen the outside world, like ever. And
Bonkers.
so it's like it's kind of set in this one room, and she's like raising this child. Reese absolutely loves this movie. Very sad, but very, very good. And it's just very well acted. She won an Academy Award for it. Yeah.
So would you say that it's enjoyable? Just
But unpleasant.
just unpleasant.
Absolutely.
Okay,
It
got
is
it.
incredibly in that category. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that A24's niche? I think, is that what we're figuring out?
Enjoyable, but
But
unpleasant.
unpleasant.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
might be unpleasant. Yeah. That would accurately describe a lot of their movies.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Jacob was also nominated. Jacob Tremblay.
Jacob, was he actually?
I thought he was like one. It was
He
one of
might
those
have
like
been.
young nomination.
He was like 7 years old or 6 or whatever. Yeah. And he got,
Oh,
there was a lot of acclaim for his performance, I remember. Yeah.
love that.
Maybe not nominated, but at least highlighted.
Yeah.
Love a good child actor.
People love that. Yeah. But yeah, it was even at the time I was like, I don't know if I ever would like to see this again because it's, it deals with very, very heavy topics. But yeah, quite good. Yeah, Room.
I'll have to give it a go then.
What's next? You've seen this one.
Yeah, we're moving in 2016.
Yes.
The Lobster.
Oh, sorry, that was 2015. Ex Machina and Room was 2015.
2015.
But yeah, anyway.
2016.
The Lobster.
The Lobster. This is like, I was going to say this is one of my favorite movies. I don't know if I can say that. I just think that it's a very good movie. And I remember what originally got me with this movie. I was in college and we were studying, I think we were studying Saul Bass, who's a really famous graphic designer.
We've actually talked, me and you have talked about him on this podcast.
Oh, have we really already?
Because we talked about Monsters, Inc. and we talked about
yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very inspired by him. So we were talking about like a lot of different like branding and stuff like that. But one of the things that had always come up around that time, because this is when it was first coming out, was the Lobster because of the movie poster.
I
And
love that poster.
Yeah, and it would always come up inside of like any like visual research and stuff that I was doing. And that's what made me actually go see the movie. Because I was like, wow, this just like looks cool.
Yeah.
And it was a cool movie.
Yeah.
Really weird. I guess you could say that it's a comedy. It's a dark comedy.
It seems really like it's more Wes Anderson comedy in that style.
Kind
Just
of.
really weird
But like less
delivery and
but-
stuff.
Yeah, but like slightly more unsettling. Enjoyable.
Yeah. If you will.
But perhaps unpleasant.
Yeah.
If you will.
Yeah.
But I think that the plot is really, really interesting. There's I think that there's some sort of deeper cultural commentary in there that you could try to extrapolate from it.
Because it's about single people and how they're.
Yeah, so
Different?
without giving too much away, essentially it's set in a world where there's the main character, I think his name's like David or something, don't quote me on that one. But he's
Some white guy name.
Colin.
Yeah. I was going to say Colin.
Colin Farrell's
Yeah.
character. Yeah, so it's set where he's like being in a relationship particularly is sort of like this idolized state in this world setting that you're in.
Oh, so this is science fiction. This isn't real?
It's like somewhat. Yeah,
okay, so like
science fiction.
this idealized romantic relationship. That's
Right.
not real life. That's fake.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Emotional vulnerability is a terrible idea in real life. I would never recommend it to anybody. But in this completely fictional scenario,
Yeah.
in which this is something that people would want to subject themselves to, then
As a married man
as a
saying
married
that.
but so essentially like he enters into this like facility in which like you almost kind of like this weird kind of like dark singles cruise sort of thing where
Sick.
like they have these different events and stuff like that that you're meant to match with somebody there.
Yeah.
But if you don't find a partner
Yeah.
within, I think it's like 45 days or something like that, like you get turned into an animal, but
Yeah.
it's an animal of your choosing. And so it's called the lobster because he says, oh, if this doesn't happen, I want to be a lobster.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, there's a lot of other dark hilarity that ensues. It's interesting. It's really weird. It is funny though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's kind of this underlying romance story that's in it. But it's like, it doesn't have a very cathartic ending. So like in a sense you're like, oh, kind of, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's also like unsettling.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Okay.
Enjoyable.
The lobster. Yeah.
But
Sound
I
like
think
a
it's
broken
shot really
record.
beautifully.
Mm.
And it's just a really unique plot premise.
Mhm.
So it would be like, it would be a quintessential A24 movie for me.
It's right there.
Like like if you were
Thumbs
to
up.
describe like, is it an A24 movie? It's a very A24 movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I would recommend, and I would recommend it. If you
Okay.
haven't seen it,
I think on the last episode we recorded, which was the Feels episode, you recommended The Lobster. and
yeah,
we're like,
dude,
let's watch it
is.
together.
Yeah, it makes you. It does make you feel some type of way.
Mm.
Some type of way about things.
Yeah.
I'd give it a go.
Okay. What's the next one?
Swiss Army Man. Have you seen Swiss Army
I
Man?
have not seen Swiss Army Man.
There's a weird pattern emerging here. We were here for Daniel Radcliffe. So again, I think maybe it's just like a Harry Potter fan
Yeah.
sort of thing. But I was just
Yeah.
like, this is interesting. He doesn't have any lines throughout the whole entire film.
Is he the farting corpse?
Yeah.
Okay.
He is just the Swiss Army Man.
Yeah.
So I think
The
that
titular.
it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And some might say that they did not like the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd put it into a category that it's so bad that it's good. I think it's actually pretty good. But it's not for everybody. It's a very A24 type of movie.
What do you mean so bad that it's good?
It's like, it's one of those, the plot is so like ridiculous.
Mm.
Well, I guess I should say the execution of the plot idea is so ridiculous
Yeah.
that it's like for example, when I was watching it with my friend, he was like, what are we watching right now? Like, and he's not the most like A24 movie type of guy.
Yeah.
But throughout the whole entire thing, he's just like, what am I watching right now? Like,
Yeah.
it was like one of those.
Just
And
like,
I was
sorry.
just like, this is just so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, they chose to like do this.
Yeah.
But it was like funny because they kind of took, they took the plot. Like, I don't want to give it away. It's pretty, but they took it to its extremes. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a cool concept, but like at some point it breaks down because this
Yeah.
would just get ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we're gonna keep going with that.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's how the movie is pretty much.
I feel like that's because the Daniels also later made Everything Everywhere All at Once. I feel like that's kind of similar to Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was like, I really like, do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's like a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Careful.
But it's just,
Whoa.
I think it's funny that like this was the one that the Academy was like, yes. And it's like, it's a movie about time traveling rats or whatever, raccoons. Or dimension hopping raccoons and whatever, and like everything bagels with your hopes and dreams on
Let's
them.
not bury the lead of part 2 when we actually talk about that
True.
movie.
Yes. Yes. Little sizzle.
Yeah, man.
But-
anything with Jamie Lee Curtis and sausage fingers, bro. Like that's peak,
That-
it's peak
yeah.
cinema.
Yeah.
Peak.
Anything with that. Like there's more than one.
Anything with that. It's that thing that nobody knew that they
wanted. Yeah.
but everybody needed.
They're like, all right, I need this.
Very A24. I think that it's a fun one to watch, but if you're like, I want to get into A24 movies, it's not on the top
Not.
of the list.
Yeah.
You can. It's not a bad movie, but it's
Yeah,
just
it's
how
not-
A24 is it?
It's not.
It's very A24, but just not. Yeah, you would watch other ones first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely get that. Next is Moonlight, which we've both watched.
What is your take on?
Freaking incredible, dude.
Right?
Do you not? Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to
I was
see like how
scared.
you'd react.
You were
to it.
ready
Yeah.
for him to come.
You're like, wait a minute. Do you
Yeah.
not like
Do I
it?
have to fight you?
Do I have to defend?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the guy who like the whole, what was it, the whole like Oscar fiasco where they were about to give it to La
Oh.
La Land instead. Like Josh is that guy. Like, wait, no,
Yeah.
no.
Why are you
no.
mad? It's good. Yeah.
Please, can Moonlight come to the stage? Not La La Land. Moonlight, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's better.
I honestly, because me and Reese have also both had this, we both feel the same way. Like, we're not necessarily like personally, like, it's hard to explain, but we're not like actually like personally, we both like La La Land more, but Moonlight is just so good.
But you're like, it's a better movie.
I am not, it is like objectively, maybe a better movie. I don't know.
I understand where you're coming from, and I would agree with you. I can understand like how some people are like, excuse me, but actually,
Yeah.
and we're not ripping on La La Land because La La Land is fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah.
But Moonlight is like, yeah, that's an A24 movie right there.
It is so A24.
Really
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah. The cinematography is just incredible. The way they use, like, I feel like there's moments of silence that, like, where, like in maybe a different movie, they'd be like, you know, the lesson of this is, like, and they just say it, but they just, like, don't. Like, the last, like, I feel like 15 minutes, there's, like, barely, no. I'm thinking of, like, there's a moment where Chiron, is that the main character's name? He's, like, writing to, like meet up with like this guy that he liked for like, you know, like it's been like years and years, and it's just silent and it's just like prepping, and then like the guy like slowly like feeds, it's not like this big emotional like I saw you, and it's just like he like slowly like makes him a meal and just like feeds it to him, and they're just talking. It's just such a just slow and just like really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is like it's a really like it's an intimate film.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think it's done really well. And the the story that it tells, especially like for that demographic of like in a primarily, you know, Black urban setting like that, and talking about those specific subjects and stuff, especially like, you know, the queer nature of the movie.
Yeah.
I knew that was like really impactful and meaningful for a lot of people, because that's just not like that side. That's not a story that gets told very often, and told as beautifully as it was and really artistically. I think it was like one of my favorite. It was just shot so well. The color in that movie is like fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really good, and Mahershala Ali's performance is just.
So mixing both of those, like it's one of the first shots you come out and like you're following Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
And like I was just like, it just the cinematography and like the presence, the sound design, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna like this.
Yeah.
Like instantly. Yeah. Freaking really good movie.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's a movie that makes you feel some type of way. Also a common trend with A24 movies. They make you feel
You're feeling some type of way.
You're feeling some type of way when you watch that film. I love it. Fantastic. That's like, as far as A24 movies goes, that's one of the, it's towards the top of the list. I would definitely, how A24 is it?
Very A24.
Did you like it?
I have not seen it.
Dang.
Shame him.
In fairness,
Shame.
I did not see La La Land
Shame.
for like 7 years.
Really?
So like I didn't see either of them, and then eventually somebody just
Saw
popped
La
it
La
on.
Land.
But yeah,
With your immense theatrical background?
I guess I was more protesting the traffic La La Land caused. No, and Moonlight. No,
by
I'm
not
kidding,
watching
I'm
it.
kidding.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved it. Next.
Next one, 20th Century Women, which you haven't seen.
I have not seen.
I don't love it, to be honest. Like it's a lot slower. It's one of those movies where like I feel like there's a couple of A24 movies where it's like, what's the plot? There's not really much of one, but you know what I mean?
Stuff just happens and people talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like it doesn't really like it's very slow. There's like a lot of like so like there is kind of a story of like this like teenage boy like trying to like get more friends and kind of like his mom really wants him to like go out and live life a lot more. But it's like very like it's just
Oddly on the nose for you, don't you think?
Wow.
and I found it too close to home and I didn't like it.
Yeah. Enjoyable, but unpleasant.
But it's also Greta Gerwig is an actress in that movie. Like that was
That's why you saw it. No shame. I want to
said
watch for the same
Greta.
reason. It's like, is that Greta Gerwig?
Is that Greta of Lady Bird fame? No, but it's a lot slower. It doesn't really. I feel like it doesn't come together in a super emotionally satisfying way at the end. It's okay, but I don't love it, and I wouldn't. it's not super A24. Like you can skip it. I feel like
Well, thus far I have. So
I'll keep doing that.
yeah.
Yeah. What's the next one? Oh, by the way, that was 2016 that we just finished with a 20th Century Woman.
Right.
Keep forgetting that.
Okay, moving on to 2017.
Yes.
A Ghost Story. I saw this actually quite recently.
Yes.
It was always one of those movies that again comes up in visual research. That I've seen, and it was kind of I knew nothing about it besides the fact that I knew that it was Casey Affleck under a sheet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it's spooky season, and
Yeah.
Mel and I were like, what are we gonna watch? We was like, we should watch this movie, and we were
Yeah.
like, okay. And so we watched it. Like, I don't know why we thought that it was some sort of like
Spooky.
something.
Yeah.
It's not.
It doesn't give me that vibe.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But we went in with zero, just
Yeah.
raw dogging it, if you will. No trailers, no nothing.
Yeah.
And so we watched it, and it was definitely like you have that A24 experience where you finish watching it and you're just like, what did I just watch?
Yeah. What was that?
So it's like, did we like that? And you're
Yeah.
like, yes. Did we get it? No.
No. It was cool. It was visually
Right, but
pleasing.
it's like, but it was beautiful, and
Yeah.
it made me feel some type of way about
Yeah.
things. It made me think about things.
Yep.
It was somewhat enjoyable and slightly unpleasant.
Yeah.
So yeah, very A24 movie. It is slow.
Okay.
I will give it that preface. It's slow, but it's intentional.
Mm.
So there's literally one scene in particular that, and I mean, like, you guys know Mel, like, she was literally watching and she was like, wait, is this it? Like, because the scene was dragging on for a long time. And I
Yeah.
could tell that they were making a point of making this particular scene drag on for a while.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like essentially like stationary, like silence. Not stationary. There was a small action that was happening, but it was like, oh, this is definitely a transitional or filler, or this is like, hey, I need to have a character doing something so that when the scene starts and somebody walks into the room, it's not like the character was just like standing there.
Yeah.
But like it was just kept going on. And so the scene is literally like 10 minutes long, and it's like
a character moving in frame. Or
but
whatever.
she's just eating. And so it's like, you're like, oh, so is something about to like happen now?
Yeah.
Or is it like, oh, this is the transition to the next scene, like it's the end of the scene.
Yeah.
And it's literally her just like eating like a shepherd's pie, like for 10 minutes. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
But like what it's trying to like, I at least I think they're trying to get at, it's Rooney Mara's character is like going through a period of grieving in that particular stage of the film.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, they really capture just like the mundaneness of like what it is like to just be in that stage, you know, if your house is empty.
Yeah.
You know, it's really tough.
Not even a YouTube video or anything.
Yeah, it's just like
eating.
she got home, someone had left her just like a pity pie, right? They're like,
Yeah.
hey, we're gonna need to make you, you know, like,
Not a pity
a
pie.
pity
Yeah.
pie. Yeah. And she's just like, and just like her just like miserably eating it, but like she just like keeps eating it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like it really was. And I was just like,
Yeah.
okay. It's a really existential film. Like, but it was
That can
cool.
be cool.
It inspired like some good conversations afterwards, but
Yeah.
very existential film, which is on brand for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't, it's a very A24 movie.
Okay.
Would I recommend it as like, this is an A24 movie that you need to see right away? For the visuals and for the A24-ness of it, like, yeah, I guess. It's a very, like, on the nose
That's
A24 type
A24.
of
Yeah.
movie. But I could also see, like, someone watching it and just, like, not liking it.
Yeah.
And especially if they're, like, newer to A24 films.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, maybe wait. Like, I'm glad I waited until now to watch it. I feel like if I had watched it closer to when it came out, I don't know if I would have liked it.
It's the deep end of the pool for A24.
It's kind of it's the zaniest of cheeses, the driest of wines, sort of thing. It's like only if you're really into it are you gonna be like, no, I can see how this is enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting a little bit of the, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're just like, wait, tastes like foot. Like, this is not this is not a cheese that I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's definitely like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, A Ghost Story. That's one where like popping up, maybe not on like Instagram feeds, but like different like YouTube like criticism stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that looks visually incredible, and I kind of want to
Visually,
see
it
that.
is one of the. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's shot. You can tell it's very low budget.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it was only like $100,000
Sheesh.
is the budget for the film.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool though.
So
A
tentative
Ghost Story.
recommend.
Mm. Next is Woodshock, which you haven't seen.
I've never even heard of this movie before.
I had never either. And so I watched it for one of my film classes for college.
Okay.
It's not good. Like it's it's not.
Wow.
I don't know if there's a nicer. I should probably say that nicer, but it's not.
It's not good.
I just feel like it's not like it's very slow, but it's also the characters are like a lot of them are like unlikable. So it's kind of about like this like I don't even fully like deforestation. I think like so Kirsten Dunst is like the main character, and like her husband is like a lumberjack, and like she's kind of hanging around. I don't even fully remember the plot, but I just remember
I just remember how bad it was.
yeah, I just remember how it made me feel, and that was disgusting.
Wow. Okay.
No, but it's shot in like a very uncomfortably close kind of way. Like there's no wide shots of anything. Like and so it's all like close-ups of people's faces and stuff like that.
Do you think that was an intentional decision?
I think it was. So it was made by two fashion designers who had never made a film before, and they like went and made it.
And you're like, and it showed.
So it's like the whole idea of A24, because that was the other thing that like was part of the research, was that they were going to spend cheaper money on like marketing and stuff like that and go viral, but because they were gonna like take risks on movies
Sure.
and like give a lot of creative control to these filmmakers. And so then like sometimes you get something that is really visionary and really incredible, like a Moonlight or like a, I don't know, like a Lady Bird or something like that. Even though I feel like Lady Bird is like more like populist and like easier to enjoy by like a lot of people. But but then sometimes, unfortunately, you get like a Woodstock or like a Tusk or something like that, where it's like, I don't know if you've heard of Tusk.
I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
Michael, you've seen it.
I've not seen it, but
Oh.
it is in this window of A24 movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a creative risk that maybe it doesn't necessarily pay off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't love Woodstock, but anyway,
Weird artsy films.
and just sometimes it just doesn't
They just
like,
miss.
yeah. And I was,
Sometimes they're just missing the enjoyable part.
Right. Yeah. Just unpleasant.
yeah. Yeah. But moving on, the Florida Project. Have you seen the Florida Project?
I have not. What is the Florida Project?
So it's essentially about like this teen mom, and she was a teen mom, and she had her kid, and she's like in her like early 20s, and she's like a prostitute, and she's like trying to take care of this kid while also being a prostitute, and like and they're living in a project in like I think a motel in Florida. And it's like very like we watched Nobody Knows for the first episode of this podcast. And it's one of those movies that kind of very vividly depicts like child neglect. And it's just unpleasant, if you will.
Yeah.
It's one of those where like, I don't like, I think some people could see it as like emotionally coming together in the end. I didn't really feel that way. It was just like, oh, I didn't like that. But a lot of people really like it. And it's competently put together for sure. Sean Baker is the filmmaker who made headlines a couple years ago when he made Tangerine, and he shot it on like an iPhone 4S.
Oh, I remember.
Do you remember that?
I didn't watch it, but I do remember that was a huge deal.
And then he has in theaters. Anora is in theaters now.
Oh,
Which he made, but
I didn't know that was him.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the Florida Project. What is next?
Your favorite?
Yes,
It's all you, dog.
it's Lady Bird.
It's Lady Bird.
It's Lady Bird. Yeah. Just freaking. It's literally one of my favorite. Like we've talked about it like multiple times on season 1. It's literally one of my favorite movies. Absolutely like shaped like my taste in film and like my desire to make stuff and my desire to thrift. And each time like I get something new out of it, and it's just so emotionally satisfying, and just so relatable as well. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you have stuff to say about Lady Bird?
It's just good. It's just a good movie.
just a
I think,
good
like you
movie.
said, it's an easier one for a general populace, but
Yeah.
you still get a very A24 vibe in the sense that you're like, for example, if you're to like if someone were to ask you, well, what is it about?
Yeah.
You kind of have the same like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of one of those stuff happens when people talk
Yeah.
sort of movies.
A little bit.
There's like, oh, there are things happening and people are talking.
There's more like comedy and structure.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like to it,
there's more of an arc to it,
Yeah.
but it's like it's primarily driven by story and dialogue.
Yeah.
Like the plot
Characters, yeah.
in and of itself is not anything to write home about, and it's
Yeah.
unique in like a lobster sort of thing. We're
Yeah.
just like, look, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is a crazy premise for a film. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just shot really well. It's written really well.
Yes.
The
Absolutely.
characters are fantastic.
Yeah.
Gretel Gerwig, one of her, at her finest.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably my favorite Saoirse Ronan movie.
Yep. Same.
Yeah, I would say
Correct
so.
answer.
Yeah, my favorite Saoirse film.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, sometimes I kind of forget that Timothée Chalamet is in that movie.
Understandable.
But not because he did a bad job or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because he's, there's so many other things that are happening. But
Yeah. He got
little-
huge after that.
Little Timmy's in the movie too.
He
I
is.
want to watch it for that.
Dude, I think about this quote all the time for whatever reason. There's a million quotes from Lady Bird that like my family will just quote to each other. But like this one, just for whatever reason, is hilarious to me. He's like sitting at the cafe and like reading a book, and she comes up to him and she's like working at the cafe or whatever. And they're talking, and then like her boss comes and is like, I'm not paying you to flirt. And she goes, I wasn't flirting. And he goes, I wish you had been.
Gross.
And I'm like, just indie boy pickup line. Incredible.
Yeah, very coming of age teenage angsty movie
Mm-hmm.
in the most A24 sense that you can think of. So
Yeah. But yeah.
would recommend, definitely one.
Oh
of the,
yeah. That's like
a must see A24 movie.
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It also confuses me when I'm like, and I'm not, everyone's different, but it confuses me when people are like, yeah, I don't get it. I'm like, how do you not?
Yeah, I that's a lot of A24 movies.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, I don't get it, and I'm like, I don't get what is to get. It's just a piece of art that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, depending on what people's history of watching movies are, where it's a very clean-cut sequential plot and things like that, which a lot of A24 movies are not.
Dang, really talking, really
Talking
about
down to those
No,
normies.
no,
They
like,
need
no.
a straight fed.
Look,
Yeah.
I will be the first to admit
Avengers.
that. I will be the first to admit that any time a Mission Impossible movies that comes out, I will be watching it.
Yeah.
Like it's just like
Yeah.
there's something like that. Just some films are supposed to are meant to deliver in a certain way, and some are trying something different or new.
It's a
So,
pop song. There's nothing wrong with a pop song.
Yeah.
At all.
they're fantastic,
Yeah.
but just if you listen to a lot of pop music and then
Only
someone
pop music. Yeah.
shows you like, I don't know, math rock, and you're like, I don't get it, and I'm like,
craft versus IPA, like
Yeah,
general populace.
right? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just like, I don't understand why people subject themselves to this, and it's all like, that's understandable,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
Not for everybody.
But I feel like Lady Bird is it's the best of both worlds. Like it's like
Of A24 movies, yeah, it's probably the most digestible.
it's a Kendrick Lamar pop song. That's what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like there's substance to it, and it's like
Right, right,
experimental sometimes, but it's also like enjoyable and a wide.
Like even your grandma's listened to The Pimp a Butterfly, you know?
Has your grandma listened? My grandma hasn't.
Has grandma Deb listened to Kendrick? Probably without knowing it.
Yeah, she listened to All Right one time. She was like,
Yeah,
"That's
maybe.
cool." Yeah. Anyway,
Next up,
Lady Bird. What's next?
2018. We're getting into now,
Yes.
and we're starting off with Hereditary.
Yes, which you've seen and I haven't. I've seen 20 minutes of this movie.
Again,
This is not okay. 20 minutes of Hereditary
Again.
is nothing. Like that is
what does
not-
that even mean?
There's
Also,
no opinion allowed.
how do you only watch 20 minutes of Hereditary? That's more my question.
It was on at a party.
Whoa.
That's not. This is not a
So it's not even
party
the
movie.
beginning
It wasn't a
of the
party.
movie.
It was like people got together and they're like, "We're gonna watch Hereditary." And
And
then
so
like,
you were just like, no.
no. So
My
it was,
mom has to pick me up.
Yeah, Mom, they're watching a scary movie.
Can you come get me?
Yeah. The funnier still is I watched the opening credits of Midsommar and then like didn't for another reason. It was literally
I can't with you, dude. Like it was like it was a bit at first. Like, lol, Josh hasn't seen any movies, but also he's just seen like small parts of a ton of movies. But now it's like
the amount that it's true.
it's literally. I'm like, is this approaching a character flaw? Like, why can you not finish these films?
Dude, I don't know. Like I didn't think it was a problem until you started roasting it for me, and then I was like, hang on.
And then because then it kept
Oh no,
being like,
I was roasting about this season 1. I was definitely
right.
Started.
Even when we were doing the what was it? Was it
Pixar
Pixar?
one, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, I've seen like half of that movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'd be different if you were like, I've just never got a
Pixar's
chance.
90 minutes.
Right.
Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no
true.
way.
I never got around to seeing it versus like, no, I definitely got 45 minutes in and just bailed.
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
like, what?
I was like, and you're like, was it bad? It's like, no.
Gosh, it seemed good from what I saw. And I'm like, explain yourself.
You saw the title card. You
Yeah.
saw the call to
Seemed
action.
pretty cool. Yeah.
I'll definitely have to finish that one of these days. What? Leftovers.
How did you just start it? I no, it's funny because like when that episode, the Pixar episode came out,
Yeah.
like your wife just came up to me and was like, "Why do you watch half of movies?"
And that's Melissa, who's I'm not gonna bother the movie. I
Right.
don't have the stamina
Who
for it.
notoriously
Yeah.
is like, I just don't think that I can watch something for 2 hours
Yeah.
right now. And I'm like, I respect that.
Yeah. The difference is I think I can.
You're like, I thought I could hang and I couldn't.
And I couldn't. Yeah.
This is probably one of the best horror movies I think I've seen.
Wow.
It's up there.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Probably.
It's that good.
For sure, top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to do some deeper thinking on whether it's a top 3 one or not. Like
Yeah.
that my top 5 is not ordered, so that's why it's, but I would definitely put it in a top 5. It is the definition of enjoyable but unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those movies where you're like, is it a good movie? Yes.
Oh.
Would I recommend it to
Yeah.
like someone's like, "Oh, should I watch it?" And I'm like, at your own discretion.
Yeah.
Like viewer beware.
Don't
sort of
watch it with
thing.
your parents.
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, and not as in like, oh, that's I can't watch this with my mom, but
Yeah.
like, it would like, like if you wanted to watch it with your mom,
Yeah.
I think it'd definitely be one of those movies where your mom would be like, I don't like this, like I can
Yeah.
imagine Jen just being like, oh,
Yeah.
no,
Why did we?
I don't like this,
Have I told you the Barbarian story yet?
no,
So I've been meaning to watch Barbarian for a while because it seemed right up my alley. And I think this was the beginning of this year. I was like, Mom, do you want to watch Barbarian together? And she was like, yeah, sure, let's throw it on. And I'm like, are you sure you want to watch Barbarian together?
you're poor Jen, dude.
I did that to her. I knew what I was doing, I guess. But she's like, yeah, let's do it. And then like when she's going down the staircase, like the
Yeah.
bit, she was like, she was like, why did we do? Well, we have to finish this now. And I was like, I'm sorry,
Because
I
some
did
people
this to
respect
you.
finishing film. Some people.
She said, "Listen here, Joshua.
Yeah.
I'm not a quitter,
Yeah.
and I didn't raise a quitter either."
Yeah. I just leave. And
We
she's
are
like, wait.
she's like, no,
gaslit me into watching this.
Yeah.
I will finish.
I am
Yeah.
finishing this
Yeah.
movie, no matter how deeply unsettling it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Ben's a true champ.
But
Thing or two you could learn from her.
That's crazy.
So maybe finish watching this movie.
yeah.
Josh.
Yeah.
No, it's really good.
Hereditary.
Yeah, Hereditary is fantastic. Ari Aster does an amazing job of making you feel very uncomfortable in his films. It's like he shows the right amount and then also knows when to not show.
Yeah.
And like the perfect balance where you're not like, oh, this is a tease. Where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then he just like moves on. And it's like, all right, we're going. And you're
Yeah.
like, wait, you don't like catch your breath or anything. It's like that happened. And now
Yeah.
everybody's just kind of,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of his films and stuff just have really great performances in them because it's like the cast is like generally like horrified.
Yeah.
Or the other creepy thing is they're completely indifferent to what's happening. And so it's like, this is a thing.
This is life.
Yeah. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, Michael, you've seen it.
I thought it was incredible. I definitely am not somebody who loves horror, and this wasn't that. It was just right up to the line without totally being horror in my
That's
mind.
fair, yeah.
Which we kind of skipped it, but The Witch is also A24.
Oh, we did skip it, yeah.
And I did see that, and that I think started the train of A24 psychological thriller, thriller almost horror that we'll see in a few more of these movies. But this being probably the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
Especially from from this genre,
ones.
from this studio especially.
Yeah.
And becomes A24. I would say The Witch started it, but Hereditary kept it going.
Right. That's a good point because it's like it is a like if you were to say like how A24 is it, like Hereditary is a very A24 like suspenseful psychological thriller, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good point. It kind of does toe that line of like not being explicitly a horror film. But like
which,
I don't know,
which I think makes it more broad appeal, a little more like than say like a Blumhouse strict horror.
right? Yeah, because I think maybe that's one of the things is that it was surprising. Like when I was watching it, I was like, okay, and then stuff would happen. I was like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like that's weird. And then they were like, all right, back to like the artsy psychological horror stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are you skipping out
Let's go back
what
to-
just transpired just
Yeah.
now? Which I think is also like due to like Ari Aster's form of storytelling as well. Just his like juxtaposition of just like really unorthodox things. It's like it's like that I don't know, it's that certain aspect of like psychological thrillers or like psychological horror movies of just like something is out of place. And so he does a really great job of creating these juxtapositions. And Hereditary is definitely one of those films in which that happens. So again, definitely would recommend it. Quintessential horror-esque A24 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hereditary.
Yeah.
Okay. What is next?
8th grade.
8th grade. We both seen this movie.
We have. How'd you like it?
Just cringe excellence. Like
Yeah.
it's just
At its finest.
it's incredible. It's so like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I was there. Yeah. And like the bit where it's such a small joke, but it's so good. It's like at the very beginning, the kid is just sniffing the markers. Do you remember that bit? I was like, yep. I was in 8th grade. And like the dude, like they pan out on like the band and then the conductor's just got the ponytail and she's on the triangle. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, it was really poignant. Very like if you kind of grew up on early YouTube and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just really it hit home in a lot of different ways. Even if it wasn't exactly your experience as a middle schooler.
Yeah.
It was just like I think Bo Burnham captured a lot of stuff really well. And what's the actress's name? I forget. Ellie or Elsie something.
Elsie Fisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did a great job. Fantastic.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah, and it was so cringy. Like in a good in a good way.
That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was meant to be that way.
Yeah.
Because being 13 is the cringiest thing.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
the actual world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely liked it.
8th
I would
grade.
see it. Very A24.
Very
movie.
A24.
Very
Yeah.
A24, and I would recommend it.
Yeah. Cool. Mid-90s. Did you see? You saw mid-90s.
I did see mid 90s.
Yeah.
Your notes on this are hilarious to me.
Would you like to read them out?
Josh only has 2 notes on mid 90s, and they are as follows. It has a coming of age feel, but more unpleasant.
Wait. More unpleasant than just coming of age. It's a scale.
It's like it's giving coming of age, but like unpleasant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I really don't like the self-harm stuff. Which is a fair criticism.
That's fair.
It's a fair criticism.
It's like really like it really bothers me. Like it is one of those, when you're watching a movie and like this happens when I'm watching like a Quentin Tarantino movie and like a white person will say the N-word and it's not like, oh, this was like Django Unchained and this makes sense. It's like in like the 90s and you're like your characters are just saying the N-word and you're just like, realistic? Yeah, sure. Do I want these in my entertaining movies?
It's like, what parts of realism do I want to depict inside
the movie's
of a
called
film?
Mid 90s.
You gotta, yeah.
I think that like it was a good movie. I think that for like Jonah Hill's directorial debut, I think he did a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
I think it captured a very like specific point in time, especially if you did skate at that time.
Which you did.
I did, but not in the mid-90s. So
You were 3 years old or whatever.
yeah, I was just being born at that point. So, so like I got a lot of the stuff, but like in the same way, I feel like skate culture, at least for the short time that I was skating, was not. I don't know. I just did it because me and my friends were doing it, which I guess is kind of part of the whole movie. But there's that sort of like angsty, rebellious sort of nature and posse that comes from it, and I'm like, nah, I grew up with a loving family in the Midwest. Like, I just skated because it was fun.
Yeah,
and my friends were doing it.
Yeah.
But it was cool getting some of the, just getting a lot of the references and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming of age sort of thing for
Absolutely.
sure.
Very
But I
A24.
think the performances were fantastic, and especially from younger actors.
Yes.
That were really good, and it was very believable, and it was not like sometimes when you're watching a movie about young people portrayed by young people, it's like kind of tough.
Yeah.
And then I can like now I see why they're like, oh, we're gonna tell this story about high school kids, but like the actors that are portraying them are like 29.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would always be like, that doesn't make any sense. But then I'd like watch movies of like with actual high school kids, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But no, this one was fantastic.
Yeah. So the funny thing about that is that like the Sonny Soljic, the main character, was like an actor, but like the rest of the kids, they were just skaters that Jonah Hill found, and they're from Illegal Civilization. Do you know about Illegal Civilization? Mm-hmm. So my sister put me on Illegal Civilization like after, because they made a documentary called Godspeed, which I don't know if you've seen Godspeed.
I have not.
But yeah, it's really cool. It's essentially like it's kind of like entertainment mixed with skating. Like they do a lot of skating videos. Like Illegal Civilization I'm talking about. I don't think they exist in the same capacity that they used to, maybe, but
I just knew they would do a lot of like I would kind of describe it as like kind of like an off-brand production company sort of thing. It's like one of those like we're creative, so we just do like a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You know?
Yeah.
And they made a movie called North Hollywood with the kid who plays fourth grade in mid-90s. He's like the lead in North Hollywood.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But yeah, interesting stuff. Anyway, that is part one. If you had two like recommendations from this group,
like a must see,
like this is A24, like dip your toe in, this is what we're doing.
Oh, okay. That's kind of interesting. So it's from the perspective of someone who like has not seen a lot of A24 movies and they want to get into it.
Yes.
Okay. I would probably go with Lady Bird.
Yeah.
And then I want to say Moonlight.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
I don't know if that's too much for someone to start off with.
I don't think so. It's like a coming of age. Like you get it.
It's just intense. But like in a good way.
Yeah.
I think there's other intense movies that are not A24 movies. So
yeah.
Yeah, I would probably go with Lady Bird and Moonlight then.
Okay. Yeah. I would probably go. Moonlight is maybe a runner up, but like if we're going like, hey, getting you into like coming of age, like maybe sort of experimental, but like mostly just like populist, Lady Bird in 8th grade. Like they're my two like objective favorites on this list.
Yeah. If that was the case, I think I would probably maybe go with Lady Bird and Spectacular Now over 8th grade, just because I think that's probably a little bit more palatable on first pass.
Yeah, fair. It seems like that way.
And more, it would appeal to a broader audience at first. And then you can kind of dive into the weird stuff.
Yeah. Well, because that's what I'm wondering. Like, I feel like Moonlight is like you're dipping your toe into the weird stuff, which is why I feel like it's like a good, like, hey, A24, like.
This is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I would probably give those a go.
Okay.
For sure.
Cool. Well, let's wrap up this. When we come back next week, we'll do the A24 movies from 2019 on to now.
To present.
What we've seen. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We do love when you guys leave comments, because we do love reading the comments. And be sure to give us a rating on Spotify or Apple. Subscribe on YouTube. We'd love that. And yeah, anything else to add?
Let us know what your favorite 24 movies are.
Yeah, that's
especially because there's some that we definitely have not seen.
Yes.
So we haven't covered any of those. But if there's one that you're like, we got to put us on it.
Yeah.
Let us know. We'd love to see it.
Cool. All right. And we will see you next week.